Alfredo O'Hagan. I'm with IDT Payment Services. I manage the regulated activities of the corporation, which includes international remittances.
And my name is Kwon Park. I'm the Director of Business Development at Bittrex. And we're headquartered in Seattle, Washington. And previous to this, I used to practice law. So.
Awesome. My name is Kanchan Kumar. I'm your moderator here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Remitter. We provide small and medium businesses an alternative to wire transfers for making and collecting payments worldwide. The reason why this panel is important is, just in case you missed the morning session, there's a key statistics. I didn't know this number. $10 trillion. $10 trillion is sitting idle in pre-funding accounts all around the world today. And that tells you the importance of digital assets. I'll start with Alfredo. You have done a lot of experiments in digital assets for settlements. What was your motivation to start early?
What we tried to do when we started IDT Financial Services, we started the traditional model. Creating partnerships with banks, with delivery processors, and moving funds the old-fashioned way. There was just a lot of discussions the last couple of days about treasury functions and pre-funding and the like. So what I tried to do is just look at different technologies, different opportunities. We discovered a few opportunities in Africa. The lady in the panel before mentioned Paga and some other companies in Nigeria. And we started to, our journey started about 2 years ago, utilizing crypto as a method of settlement with these companies. We added to Nigeria, we added Mexico, and that has been has allowed our company to create a know-how on how to manage these cryptocurrencies and fiat. At one point, we were settling about 25% of our total flow of funds with cryptocurrencies.
Awesome. Nicholas, you run a very interesting financial services company. You're not a traditional plain vanilla MTO. What do you think digital assets can do for a business like yours?
Well, first, we focus on the four main goals for us, which are cost efficiency, time efficiency, transparency, and giving our clients the best product we have. Once we have those, we have an e-wallet inside Quallet. It's called Quallet. We can leverage them inside our IT platform to offer those to our clients.
Mm-hmm. And without digital assets, how are things different today?
Well, we use the traditional banking system. We're members of SWIFT. Mm-hmm. And we normally do cross-border payments on a regular basis. And time and cost would be two things which are very important. Transparency, we can see the costs. It's quite clear what the costs are. But we're not giving our clients the best product we can give them. So yes, there's a big difference.
Yeah. Brad, what you do really impacts credit unions quite a lot, right? Not just one, but quite a few of them.
Yes, yes.
1,400 of them?
Yes.
Indeed. What role do you see digital assets for credit unions?
And first to your original question, to help level set. So I know a lot of people don't know we exist. There are about 10 corporate credit unions in the United States. So we're a tier 2 credit union. So we only serve credit unions. We do not serve what we call natural persons, you and I. So we, Catalyst Corporate, serve about 1,400 credit unions across the country. We provide anything from investments, but relative to today is different technology, access to different technologies, and all payments. And today, wires and international wires are certainly a big part of our offering. So the value we see here is with credit unions today, there's a lot of layers. And you've got a lot of financial institutions and players in the mix. So this gives us an opportunity from a credit union perspective, and the industry perspective, to be much more competitive. A lot of the things that were named previously, the cost, certainly the speed, the efficiency, the security of it. So there's tremendous opportunity. A lot of credit unions, and Catalyst in particular serves all the Sand States. So there's a lot of migrant population there that credit unions are serving in other products, but not necessarily international wires. And that activity is going to different money centers and other payments processors because they simply can't offer a very competitive product for that market. So this is a tremendous opportunity that we see, that leveraging our existing infrastructure, partnering with Ripple and incorporating that in our solutions, that we can push out to credit unions and they can have a much more competitive offering to that, not just to that market, but to their entire market. So we see a lot of competitive advantage to this moving forward.
Great. Kwon, you're not a payments company, you're not a bank, but you are a key player in whatever we are going to be doing here, right?
Yep.
What role do you see Bittrex playing in this?
Yeah, so I'll take a little step back and describe a little bit about Bittrex as a digital asset trading platform. So, we truly, as a company, believe that blockchain is going to be transformative. And as a platform, we think there is a need to kind of have a place where you can unlock the value of some of these projects, and we want to be that platform. Now, with X-Rapids and we get excited about projects like this where, they aim to try to facilitate, more efficient and faster cross-border payments, and we want to provide the platform to facilitate that. So.
Great. Alfredo, I'll come back to you. If you could share your experience, what worked and what did not work in the early experiments that you did? What are the challenges?
Well, we just finalized a pilot with X-Rapid from the US to Mexico. And I will say it was extremely successful. It exceeded our expectations. We did work with the X-Rapid team. We made changes over the course of the pilot, which lasted about 30 days. It was a very intensive pilot. We achieved what we were looking to achieve, which was speed. In our business, speed equals reliability. That's the expectation of the customer. And the average speed of a transaction end-to-end was about 1 minute and 53 seconds. From the minute of the execution in the States to the moment that the money arrived in the bank account in Mexico. That's really just incredible. Also, another element that we looked at is the rates. Customers are very sensitive to FX rates. One of the things that we discovered in the process is that the way the technology works is that it would allow us to potentially create a new product. With the FX will be dynamic through the day. In this business, usually you have an FX that is very static. It's 24 hours or 48 hours. So after working with the X-Rapid team and with my different teams internally, we are actually trying to develop a new service, a new product that will include the concept will be a limit order, if you're familiar with that. So consumer could say, for example, execute my order to Mexico today by 6 p.m. unless the rate reaches, let's say, 1870. So we want to put that power 24/7 on demand when to execute that order. And that's where we are going. So we're taking the know-how and the technology with our understanding of the marketplace. And that's a unique opportunity for us, what blockchain allows us to do.
And if you were to contrast this with before, I mean, you did with other cryptocurrencies earlier, how would you contrast this?
The technology and the cryptocurrency, allows you to do new things in the marketplace and put the customer in the center of the experience. And that's unique. That didn't happen before. You have to be nimble, and you have to be an early adopter. Because if you wait too long, what will happen, you create these legacy systems. You mentioned the 800-pound gorilla. We have a few in the industry. It's very difficult to change that. So we are small, we're nimble, and we can do things. We tried, some things don't work, but most likely the ones that work will change the marketplace and the industry.
Great. Coming back to you, Brad, you mentioned about the lack of product which credit unions have it today, and how digital asset could change. Do you also see newer products being created because we're going to be using digital asset?
Sure, but ones that I can really speak at length of today, no. It doesn't take a tremendous imagination just to see where this would go. In the credit union space today, if you're sending an international wire, the primary way you do that is you have to do that within the operating hours of a credit union. You're going to have to go into that credit union to the counter and affect that transaction. So without going into great detail, I don't think it takes a great imagination to see where you could take this technology, the security that comes with it, other technologies that you could pair with this, and really tremendously open up access to your average credit union or small banking consumer and sending cross-border payments in different ways. That's as much as I'm willing to say.
Kwon, in this entire flow, we keep talking about, it's going to end the need for pre-funding, right? So can you explain the fund flow, how the money will really move?
Yeah.
Very briefly.
So I think so. Bittrex will, as a the trading platform that will support XRP. We have fiat to XRP capabilities, and companies such as everyone on the panel can connect to us and truly facilitate some of these payments. And I don't know if someone else wanted to get into deeper detail about how you start the onboarding process, but we allow the facilitation of that.
So basically, on this end, you would convert fiat to crypto. Crypto goes on the other end, and then someone similar on the other side is going to convert it back to fiat, right?
That's right. That's right. So we will support fiat to crypto and also the crypto to crypto transactions.
Moving on to the next segment in this, we know regulations have been pretty sketchy around this. Regulators have looked at digital assets for a long time as one black bucket. Everything there is spurious. Don't touch it. Some regulators have started learning about it, have come up with regulations as well. Other aspect has been banks. So even when the regulators have not really prohibited anything, banks have said, okay, don't touch this. Alfredo, you have been, again, early adopter in this, and you would have your experiences as well. How do you see things changing?
How would I think? Well, when it comes to compliance and regulations, given the way we utilize crypto for basically settlements between entities, the regulators have not shown any concern to us. The challenges were internal challenges. Our corporate risk committee had to be convinced about the value of the process. So the first time we mentioned cryptocurrency, we got this. And then the second challenge that we have, we are a regulated entity, we're an MSB, was our banks. Because you start actually with a domestic wire in order to initiate the process. And obviously they see where those wires are going to Bitstamp or Genesis or to another exchange. So, and just to convince the bank, which is actually one of the largest institutions in the US, it took me 8 months.
Wow.
We actually had to go all the way to the compliance officer of the bank to get the green light to move forward. So that is the biggest challenge, education. We felt that we were just educating those folks as to the benefits. And we are not speculating in cryptocurrency, just we utilize in order to accelerate, to improve the process.
Yeah. Nicholas, you have a close view of the Mexican regulations around this. How does the regulation look like? How does the bank react to digital assets?
Very similar to what Alfredo said. No, when they hear the concept of cryptocurrency, it's something that's right now. There's a new law in Mexico which is called Ley Fintech, which we're trying still to figure out. It has 5 to 6 months. So neither the regulators or us know exactly what the boundaries are or which boundaries are going to be set. But right now, the regulators are very open. In our case, we're a non-bank, financial institution, so they're really open to what we propose. But in the near future, I think we're going to meet. But right now, it's not clear. It's not clear yet.
Brad, I'm sure your challenges would be different than the MTO's challenges, right? As a bank, as a credit union.
Yeah, when you ask the question, how are things going to change? I mean, I think they're definitely going to evolve. Clearly wouldn't be here if we didn't believe that. I think it's a technology and capabilities that are here to stay, and they are going to be transformative. So how things are going to change from a regulatory standpoint, education's key. Delineating from the buzzwords and the cryptocurrency terminologies and where they're actually going against banks and banks actually leveraging it in credit unions. So there's that change from an education standpoint, and I think that's already occurring and in many respects has occurred. So from a regulatory perspective, I think it'll evolve. You may have some language wrapped around it going forward. To this point, we've met with no resistance, and I know there's been a lot of education on that side and discussions, even I believe with Ripple, and certainly that's something that we have been and will continue to be engaged with, and we'll make certain they're alongside of us all along the way. And really, at this stage, don't see barriers there. The other changes will be adoption, and I think back to there's a much less sexy world of checks, and the reaction within the financial industry when we talked about capturing a check on a phone, and you never get that piece of paper. It's something that we all are very familiar with today. I was very much in that world when we started that, and people's reaction was the same. No, there's no way. The fraud that's going to happen, all the risk and so forth. And then USAA came out with it, and then all of a sudden everybody needed it. And it was table stakes, and you saw the very rapid adoption. So I think adoption being on the forefront, the advantages of that, and other banks and financial institutions seeing others adopt it, I think that you start getting a ramp effect. We've seen that with other payments trends in the past, and I think we'll see that with this one.
And I think there's also a need to segregate the use cases, because what we're talking about here, digital assets for settlement, is like you said, we don't hold, we don't speculate. We are using it only for transmission of value. If that's the case, then I think I would believe that regulators need not really be worried about this part. Coming back to the banks itself, Kwon, you being right into this space, thick of things, and you've been long enough in this to see regulations changing, and you've seen regulations of all kinds. What's your view on this?
Yeah, that's right. So, Bittrex is dealing with fiat trading now. So we are dealing with the state by state, regulators as well as the federal regulators. Now, I believe, we've been in a good position because of just how our executive team was built in the company. So we've got our cybersecurity engineers and the founders in Seattle, and then we've got the other half in Washington, D.C. And when we're trying to comply with regulation in this space, and we're constantly educating regulators, it helps when the chief compliance officer was at the Justice Department prosecuting banks for over 2 decades, and our chief strategy officer was at the Justice Department and Homeland Security. So we're very committed to compliance, and I think that has kind of taken us a long way because to get mainstream adoption, I think it's very important that everyone trusts the trading platform on the security and the compliance side.
Alfredo, you raised a very pertinent point. It's not only about regulations, but also our internal compliance teams have to be educated about it. How did you go about actually educating them and telling them the value of this? Because I guess this is a huge need. Because if you're talking about adoption has to not only dependent on regulation, but our internal compliances as well.
Well, you have taken a lot of flow charts to get them there. The banks, what the banks want to, at least from what I've seen, the banks want to know every step in the process of the flow of funds.
Yeah.
And if you work with reputable companies and you have a good business plan and you can show them the benefits, it may take you a long time to get them to where they need to be in order to cooperate with you. But you need to get them from a point that said, crypto is being used for criminal activities to you using these for the benefit of humankind.
Yeah.
So that's the process that you need to go through. And it takes a little bit of understanding their mentality and what is that they need to. So you need to give them tools so they can justify their decision.
Yeah, just one thing, just to add too, in our discussions, it's important to understand it. If you look at today's environment and a traditional international wire, that's not the cleanest process out there. And if you have a return, if you get a wrong destination, it's a painful process, and you've got weeks and sometimes months on your hands. And one of the benefits here, and a lot of the way that we frame it, it's a digital wire. It's a faster wire in many respects, if you want to use familiar terminology. So I think it's an important thing to look at how you're leveraging a lot of existing infrastructure from a security, safety, soundness perspective. You're putting another plug-in into that, if you will, and the Ripple technology, and leveraging the XRP as a bridge currency. But it's a bridge that happens instantaneously in a matter of seconds. So in today's international wire world, there's volatility there today that exists, because that seems to get a lot of press a lot of times. It's already there in today's world, and I would argue it's going to be pared down utilizing this technology. You also have a lot greater transparency with this. We'll be able to trace the transaction from point A to point B, or all the steps along the way. I can't always do that today without some pain points and just trying to research and understand what all hands that it was exchanged with before it got to its final destination. And that's some of the pain points that happen, again, if there's anything that goes wrong with that initial wire. So in a lot of respects, it's leveraging a brand new technology, and you've got a lot of the legacy infrastructure wrapped around there that I think settles things from a safety soundness perspective. And I think that's going to be the continued dialogue as we move forward. And of course, and do this hand in hand with regulators and just make sure everybody's comfortable. And so far to date, that's what we've seen.
Interesting. Nicholas, you are doing some early experiments, and how has been your experience with your internal compliance team, convincing them about use of digital assets?
Well, yes, we've done some experiments, a couple of experiments. So we've been working with Ripple for quite a few time right now. But with our compliance teams, we haven't had any problem with that. It's perfectly transparent from our side if we do it the right way. If we go through the banking system to use this technology, we haven't had any problem with that either, because it's when you turn it to fiat. But once you talk about cryptocurrency, it's when the questions start to arise. But with our experience right now and the examples and the tests we've done with Ripple, we've had no problem in any compliance department whatsoever.
I can share our experience when we signed up with Ripple Xcurrent. The first question which came was, you're using XRP, that's cryptocurrency. And our bankers very clearly say you cannot deal in cryptocurrencies or with companies which deal in cryptocurrencies. That's our agreement, MSP banking agreement says. Obviously, our compliance thought Xcurrent means cryptocurrencies, and we had to explain this. And then we had to go back to our bankers as well to explain them in advance that this is what we're doing, does not involve any digital assets. So yes, I think it's important to possibly go back to your own team, compliance team, as well as bank team, to talk about this and explain with a lot of flowcharts. And I'm sure possibly, Alfredo, we're going to come back to you with some of those flowchart copies.
I'll tell you, our difference is we actually have developed this and mapped this out internally with our compliance department. They actually did all of our flowcharts for us.
That's right.
Which was a beautiful thing, because you didn't have to come back and then fight them and say, what did you miss this, you missed this. So to have them come alongside with you and do it with you, you're effectively killing two birds with one stone, and they have an eye towards it that from a business unit perspective, you might miss something, and they're going to have that in there. So for us, that's been seamless, because if anything, they drove us faster than we would have gone otherwise, and it actually facilitated things in the way that they pushed it forward. So, and a lot of this, you're mapping out your flows today, then you're adding what the nuances come along with this. So I definitely have not seen that as a big hurdle.
Moving on, we have all heard few central bankers yesterday, and of course been reading for a long time, that several countries are planning their own digital currency, right? Kwon, what do you think it leads to in terms of liquidity when you mix, say, 10 other countries come up with their own cryptocurrencies, and there are at least so many which are already planning to? How do you see that going?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on how each country kind of goes about it. And, we could see where they allow certain trading platforms to let their citizens access these central bank digital currencies. And I mean, these are my views, but then you wouldn't have a liquidity problem. Now, I think the focus will be moving forward when these central bankers think about this is going to be security. You're really going to need platforms that have proper controls in place, that take a proactive approach, and that understand blockchains and how to secure them. And I think that will be an important decision. And if they decide to go with trading platforms that they allow their citizens to access.
Alfredo, you have worked with various digital assets even before you started working on XRapid and XRP. Do you think adding more digital assets to the mix is a good thing?
Outside of XRapid, we utilize digital assets as a conduit to facilitate and improve the process. So we are really agnostic. If we use a Bitcoin or Litecoin, so whatever is best in that particular market that allows us to do two things. Actually, one thing, main thing, is just to offer a better FX rate and a better offer to the consumer. So again, we are agnostic as to what we use. We use Bitcoin for a long time. It was a hard fork. We switched to another currency. And then we go back to the one that offers the most liquidity in that market.
But liquidity is going to be the deciding factor whether a particular digital asset is used or not being used, right?
Right.
Okay. If we look at, coming back to segregating the digital assets between assets which are being used purely for settlement purposes and assets which are being used for speculative purposes. Do you see the newer currencies or stable coins or having a better regulatory coverage? Do you think that's something which banks will adopt faster because it's being used for settlement purposes? Or do you see that continue to be lumped as spurious asset?
Our experience and our goals are, I stated those before. Again, from our perspective, we will use a cryptocurrency, a digital asset that is reliable, that has liquidity, and that actually our partners, being a disbursement partner, will accept. And we go through the entire due diligence process to onboard the different partners, being banks, being disbursement partners, being exchange houses. They go through our compliance process, which is fairly, I talked to my compliance officer, I told him that he's pretty invasive. So, we are a regulated entity, so we need to make sure that all the pieces are in place. So we will not do or deal with an ICO that is not recognized and or doesn't have liquidity in the marketplace. We will stay away from those.
Great. Another number that we heard this morning was that 75% of the companies have shown interest in using digital asset for settlements. What advice would you give, Brad? Why they should jump faster and not wait?
For other institutions?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be perfectly in favor of them staying on the sideline for a while. But I mean, from our perspective, again, this is something that there's already a tremendous amount of interest in distributed ledger and the blockchain technology, and I think some are initially running to some other use cases just because I think they feel like they may be safer, and I think, from our perspective, I think it's a unique perspective in that being an aggregator already and a facilitator of other financial institutions, it's really more so a message of, we're looked to go out and find those new technologies, those new products, those new services, and that innovation. And so it's more of a message to our membership of stay tuned, because this is something we're working on, that we've now announced, and to make them aware of this is something that we feel is here to stay and can help them be more competitive in the future. Because everything that we do, obviously, we don't launch anything to an individual consumer. It's through our credit union network. So for those, for our intent is we're going to bring them into the market through the research that we've done and through the launching of this technology. And our vision would be that this would be something that would be a credit union industry adoption. So I joke about saying stay there. I mean, we definitely, this is something that, with anything like this, you want to have that ubiquity. You want to have that mass adoption, and that's what we hope to bring to the table, or at least play a big part of that.
Nicholas, what do you think is your message to financial institutions in general, not just the money transfer companies, why they should adopt it fast enough?
Well, we had the experience of working with Ripple for a long time now, and we believe that we have exchanged needs from Ripple's side and from our side, and we also believe that the product which is right now in the market has something to do with what we needed in that moment and what we need in the future. So it's important to get ahead of the curve and get that product with your specific needs. And well, once you have that, you can go outside and disrupt the way you do traditional business ahead of the curve, which will help you grow your client base.
Alfredo, you have been early adopter, various experiments. I'm sure you'll continue doing more experiments, but at least what is available today in the market, which is say XRapid, what's your message to financial institutions for adoption?
In our industry, just like yours, is highly regulated, not only in the US, but overseas in the different countries. So if you look at XRapid as a hub, you need the spokes, you need the endpoints, you need the entities that will enable that last mile. So the more companies, the more entities that join in, the better we all are, and the better services that we'll be able to provide to the consumers. Those are the ones that we need to benefit. Yes, we are a for-profit corporation, so you need to create shareholder value and all of that. But I think that you would be better served if you can provide a high-quality, low-cost product to the consumer. You just think for a second. When a Mexican national, for example, is sending $300 to Mexico, his or her family depends on that money to pay the rent, to buy the food next day. And when you take $10 or $15 away from that 300, it has a significant impact. And that's one transaction. Just think for a second. The last time I read, the data, I think you have about anywhere between 60 to 65 million transactions a year going to Mexico, and these just remittances only. Just if you deduct from each transfer $10 or $15, just think about, multiply that by 60 million. That has an impact. So we can profit, we can create shareholder value, but we need to create value for the consumer as well. You can't separate that. It needs to go hand by hand.
Absolutely brilliant. Kwon.
Yeah, I'll echo kind of what Alfredo said, but what XRP aims to do is truly one of those projects that we think are innovative and good for the consumer. So we just want to be there to support, from a platform standpoint, what's happening in the industry now. To financial institutions, it's pretty sure it's never too late. So start looking at this technology.
Great. We got time for possibly one or two questions. Any question for the panel here? Please raise your hand and direct it to a panelist, please. I think it's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.